What's up? Episode number 26.
Is
Yeah.
it?
It
What is
is. It
this?
really is
He might be lying.
26.
I don't know. I'm gonna take
Not
his word
hang
for
with the
it.
Joneses. I'm Rashad.
I'm Kesha.
And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody that watches and listens. And if you have not already, please subscribe to us on the YouTube as well as
The YouTube.
IG, yeah, and Facebook as well. The more engagement we have, the better it is for people to actually see us and hear us. And also, you get to talk about your favorite things and topics and get to know us better as well. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff if you see us, when you see us. Hey, almost forgot the shirt. Appreciate you, Warrior Ray Hines, aka Mr. Brains of Bronze Fitness on IG, CEO of Brains of Bronze Fitness, for the shirt. Much love and respect. Back to the show. Today, what are we doing today, Kish?
Well, I know people probably wondering why do you have glasses out? Or these are alcohol. We don't usually drink alcohol, but it's my 5th-year anniversary. Actually, October 21st is my 5th-year anniversary, and what's that entails? 5 years ago, I'd had 33 sessions of radiation, and I finished my last session, my third session, which my last session on October 21st, 2015. Why did I have this radiation? Um, when I had backstory, pregnant with my youngest, we had her
Yeah.
in the hospital. I had the worst headache I could ever imagine in my life. And I have a history of migraines, but this headache was like make a migraine like a punk. It was like so bad. And I'm in the hospital, like my head hurt. And they give me like Motrin, Tylenol, stuff like this. I'm like, my head is still hurting. So I remember the night before, we was at home, got discharged, home, actually on Valentine's Day, got discharged from the hospital, had my baby, got discharged. The night before, I remember praying to God, was like, God, if you got to take away my eyesight to get my spiritual eyesight, I'm down for it. I wake up the morning, couldn't see. I said, Lord, I was joking. I really didn't mean that for real.
No baxes.
Right. Like, no, Lord, I didn't mean that for real. Like, literally the next day it happened. So what happened? And Rashad thought I was bugging out. My head was still in excruciating pain. I started feeling like aches behind my ear. Everything started to taste like metal. And then the left side of my face drooped. And then my left eye closed and my eyesight was open. Like, I couldn't close my right eye, but even though it was open, I really couldn't see out of it. So finally, Rashad was like, no, maybe you do need to go to the doctor. Because before, when I was in the hospital, they was like, oh, this is just hormones. And I'm like, but this is my third child. Never had this happen. They was like, well, because you older and this is your third child. Each child's a difference. I'm like, something don't seem right. And during my pregnancy, I kept having headaches soon, which they kept putting it off as this was pregnancy. And because of my age, this was just kind of like,
Yeah,
this is what your body is doing.
Like, you old now, bro. Like,
Yeah,
cool
so
out.
they give me all this medicine. I'm like, something ain't right. So fast forward, we go to the emergency room. I'm sitting there. They said, let me do an MRI. So I'm like, okay. God said to me, they're gonna find something. I'm like, come on, not really. So the MRI come back. They're like, oh yeah, your MRI is normal. I'm like, yes, except for that tumor. What? And I'm like, what you mean? They was like, yeah, you got a tumor on your brain. You didn't know that? I'm like, no, how would I know that? So they diagnosed me, I have a meningioma, which is a benign brain tumor, and they diagnosed me with Bell palsy. At the same time as diagnosing me, an intern came in and was like, I'm a resident and I never seen Bell palsy. Can I see you again? And she's like this. I'm like, yo, I can't make this up. You just tell me I have a brain tumor and this one is looking all my face. And I know some would say, why you just didn't say this? I was so much in shock by the diagnosis of a brain tumor. Remember we talked about fight, flight, or freeze?
Yeah.
I froze.
Yeah.
I was like, but then my next instant was I ran. I ran to, the hospital gown, butt out. I ran to the bathroom. Don't know why. I just ran to the bathroom. It's like the right thing to do. And then they was telling me proceed, and this is the first time that when they actually was talking to me, it was like wah 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 wah. Like I didn't understand nothing. So I can't remember where you went, but you came back in, and you were like, "What happened?" I was like, "Yo, I got a brain tumor. He was like, what? Stop playing. I'm like, who plays about having a brain tumor? Like,
This is rhetorical.
I'm serious. So I'm like, talk to the doctor. I run out again. He talked to the doctor. He's like, yeah, they did say you have a brain tumor. So at the same time, my mother came, because remember, I just had the baby. So this is maybe a week or two.
It's a week later.
Week
It's
later.
exactly 7 days later.
Yeah, 7 days. So my mother came. My mother and my siblings came down to see the new baby. And I didn't tell my mother what's going on. So she looks at my face. Mind you, they thought I had a stroke. One thing, they thought I had an aneurysm. Thank God it wasn't that. So my face still looked like I had a stroke. So my mother, one side of my face was paralyzed. My mother looks at me. She's like, you didn't tell me you look that bad. What's going on? And I'm like, Dad, But then I think she realized what she said, and she's like, no, it don't mean that bad. I'm just saying, yeah, it's just probably bell palsy. No, she tried to, but I still didn't tell anyone what was going on. The reason why I didn't tell, because I didn't want to face it. No, I'm going to take that back. It's not because I didn't want to face it. I knew they were going to have questions, and I was such in a vulnerable state.
You don't want to talk about it.
I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want no one to ask me questions, especially questions I didn't know. Like, shortly later, the same day came from the hospital. It was like a Sunday. I'm getting all these calls. I'm like, I'm getting nervous. It's like, it's the emergency room calling me, a neurologist is calling me, and it was someone else. Like, I was getting all these calls to a doctor, and it's like a Sunday. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is serious. So did all that, went to call next day. They never got an appointment this fast before in my life. Like, they was like scheduling me for appointments, like, mind you, it's on the Sunday. They was like, on Monday, we need you to come in. Like, what? What I'm going on? So we go into this office. Who was she? The Russian lady, the Russian doctor. Was she a neurologist? The neurologist. And I'm in the waiting room, and I see somebody walking past looking at me real hard. And I'm like, even though my eyesight was bad, but I saw it, and you can feel people around you. So I feel somebody, and I feel somebody staring at me. I'm like, Rashad, someone looking at me? He's like, yeah. And she just walking and keep walking past and looking at me. I'm like, that must be the doctor. So she go in, we go in the room. She looks at me and was like, man, if I knew your face was this bad, I would seen you earlier. Now I'm already feeling insecure because one side of my face is paralyzed. And then you like, Dad, you look real bad. I'm like, thank you. And I remember I just had a baby. This is about week 2 now. I just had a baby, so my emotions and my hormones were all over the place. So she told me, she's like, you need to get an MRI with contrast. I'm like, okay. She's like, no, do it now. Now, I breastfeed my child. She's only 2 weeks old. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, so what's the side effects of it? Does it go through your milk? Is it something I can still nurse off? No, but you still got to do it now. You can't nurse right up there. And I'm like, well, I can't. Imagine, I just had this baby. I'm nursing. She's like, well, you're going to have to stop. I'm like, I can't just stop because I don't even know she can take a bottle yet. Only thing I have given her is my breast milk, and my children tend to have allergies to milk. So I can't just give her another milk because I don't know if she'll have an allergic reaction, and I don't want to. I want to continue nursing. And plus, I don't know if she can use a bottle. So I can't say right now, you may do this test, and then I go home and I can't feed my child. We can't give her anything for her.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, you need to work that out, and then you need to do this quick. I'm like, I'm bawling now because I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You remember her?
Oh, yeah.
So thank God, like I never pumped this much milk. God was just supplying. The milk was over. I was able to pump like bottles and bottles and bottles of milk and still nurse her. Like I was never able to do that before any of my children. It was like bottles and bottles and bottles and nursing and bottles. And I was like, yo, I got enough milk. So I took the test. So came back. She was like, yeah, it's a meningioma, a benign brain tumor. But I think we need to do a spinal tap. I'm like, why? In case you get diseases that only black people get. I was like, what? What are diseases only black people get? She's like lupus, and she's named some other disease I couldn't remember. I said, well, do I have the signs? She was like, no, but we still should do a spinal tap. It's like, no. So then I was referred over to the neurosurgeon. He's like, yeah, still talking. And I didn't want to hear no more like tumor. I was like, I'm tired of hearing the word tumor. Like, I literally was like, people say tumor, I cried. I didn't want to hear. It could be a TV show. They're like, tumor. I was like, I can't. So go over there to the neurosurgeon, and he's like, yeah, we do surgery. And I'm like, you gotta cut my hair off. He was like, yeah, no, put it here, roll your face down, split your brain, split your skull in half. And I'm like, and he explained it
So ever so
like
nonchalantly.
ABC one two like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm saying it like, you gonna split my skull and pull my face off of my skull?
Sound like a stereotypical surgeon.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah. I was like, so I started crying again.
All right, so since you forgot, let me ask the context to that.
Yeah.
So we went to the neurosurgeon at and where we went, and he also said it's three options. You can got surgery,
I forgot about that.
cyberknife, or radiation. And then, the thing about that, he also said, yeah, you're still gonna have to do cyberknife or radiation, even if we do surgery. I was like, bro, though, why the heck we doing surgery if I still got to do radiation regardless?
And then he was like, I know, describe to me, this is major. And that's exactly, remember, that's exactly how he said it.
And then your last stay, I was like, yo, I'm not really feeling this. He was like, me neither. And he was like,
so they referred me to
no, they didn't refer you. You asked how long. I said, how long do I have? And he was like, no, you got time to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that was like our next course of action was just to wait and then make a decision.
But no, you recommended also. You was like, can you refer her to another neurologist?
Oh yeah, can we get a second opinion?
The neurologist kept make me feel like death.
I said, yeah. Can we get a second opinion for the neurosurgeon?
And they were like, well, no, because it's a specialist now. This might take a while, and she's willing to see you. So go back to her, and we'll work on the referral. But then they recommend me to a radiologist. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, but also, mind you, this particular group is only referring me to the people in their group. So now, looking back, I will go further in the story. Looking back on it, they didn't look at me holistically. They only referred me to their friends, their colleagues, to keep it within that certain group. So, okay, go back to the Russian lady, the neurologist. She walks in and was like, what are you doing here? Because I would not get a spinal tap. I was like, if you don't have any symptoms, I'm not getting a spinal tap. For what? I felt like they were trying to fleece my insurance. So they come in and they're like, she's like, what are you doing here? Rashad goes off. I'm boo-hooing.
I don't even remember that.
You went off. You packing up the baby. Wow, we'll go. This went off. So I was like, well, fine, come back. She's like, you don't do what when I'm telling you to do. My recommendation is no need for me to see you then. And then she looks at the baby. Our newborn was like, is she all right? Is there something wrong with her too? Do you remember that? You went off on that too. Don't be looking at my baby. I was like, and I'm bawling. So
I remember packing up. I don't remember none of the dialogue.
Yes. So I'm bawling. I'm crying. So I'm still looking. I'm like, so if you felt that way, why didn't you tell me that instead of collecting my payments of my copay, why didn't you tell me not to come to this appointment? That's what we have radiology. And I'm having an appointment. Mind you, I still can't see. So Rashad, I'll joke and say he's my CNI dog. Rashad literally had to hold on to his shoulder or his arm, and he had to walk me around because I couldn't see. And the eye that was open, I really didn't have any vision. And also I couldn't move my face, so I couldn't smile either. Because some people, I had pictures of, people was like, why you not smiling? And I had glasses on. People was like, why you not smiling? I was like, I had messaged, like, I can't smile. My face is paralyzed, so I can't smile. Which, I got some other people was like, I wish I could do that. I wish, I'd get something to make my face look like that. That's some Botox. I was like, no. If this was Botox feel like, I never wanted in my life. So we went there, radio. And this is another thing, I felt like they didn't look at me as a person. They schedule all these appointments knowing I can't see. And one day I had 4 appointments in one day. I'm like, and I said to my general doctor, I said, everyone scheduled me all this appointment. No one asked me how am I getting here. And she was like, I never thought about that. I said, y'all know I can't see. No one asked me how I'm getting to this appointment. We stay scheduling appointments, but no one even offer some resources on how to get here. At this time, Rashad was on paternity leave, but he ultimately had to leave your job because we had a newborn baby and I could not see. So it was like I needed daycare for me. Like we needed a babysitter for the baby and for myself. Sped forward, I speak to my gynecologist was the one that actually helped me. He was like, speak to this neurosurgeon. If he says you need surgery, do it. He's like, this is the one where if they say I need surgery, I'm doing it. So mind you, he's my gynecologist. Why aren't the other people who specialize in this helping me? Came, contact them, found the other doctor. He was like, oh yeah, he explained to me. But by that time, I see an interview for Hampton Proton Therapy.
In commercial?
A commercial. And I'm like, okay. And I said, I wonder if they can address my case. I wonder if they'll see me. So I called. The lady was working perfectly. She's like, I get you in. She got me in like right away. First interview, my doctor, we was still about 2-3 hours and he still didn't see me. I go off and I leave. And plus, remember we had to pick up the children.
Yeah.
I go off and I leave. So they scheduled an appointment with me rather quickly. And he was like just going down the list. And they was like, so no one referred you to us? I was like, no. It was either, their suggestion was surgery, the cyberknife, and standard radiation.
Yeah.
But no one, and it was only in their system. It was not like, it was only in this, they wouldn't refer me to anybody else. It was just, thank God, from my gynecologist and seeing a random commercial. So he was like, let me explain to you. He put up the brain. I'm still bawling because I'm like, I'm tired of seeing pictures of my brain now, this tumor. Like, I'm tired. Put up the picture. He's like, if you have surgery, you're going to die. I'm like, oh! I'm crying again. We laughing now, but it wasn't funny then. I was crying.
No, not at all, yo.
Like, Rashad was like, Kesha, where are you? I should be at the table like, I should be just crying. I'm so serious. I should just be in the corner crying because I didn't want nobody to see me. So I'm like, well, thank God. So he was like, Hampton Proton Therapy. I thank him. My doctor was Dr. Alan Thornton. Never on time.
Dr. Thornton.
But he's like, he's like the best. And that's like, he's world renowned for like tumors, brain tumors.
Yeah.
So he's told me about Hampton Proton. I mean, he's explained this to me like no other doctor has ever explained this to me. Other doctors told me what to do. He explained it to me and showed the pictures and was like, look, and this and this. I felt like I was most informed. Mind you, this was like my second opinion. So I had like 10 doctors I have seen before this and never been well informed.
This is almost like 2 months later.
2 months in my year.
Yeah, this wasn't like it was a gap between,
because it was almost time for me to go back to work.
Yeah, it was a gap between like us having all them crappy diagnoses that didn't actually happen going there.
And I never had Bell's palsy.
I
never had. I'm taking all this medication for Bell's palsy. I never had. Went there, so he was like explaining to proton therapy. He was like, let me explain to you why it's different than radiation. Radiation, regular, leaves a cloud around your brain, which you call a radiation cloud. It's not precise, so they can't guarantee that you won't hit. It will hit actually this point. It might hit there and somewhere else. Also, the tumor is wrapped around my pituitary gland, which is the reason I couldn't see. And the reason why my face is paralyzed, my eyes closed. So if I had the standard radiation, it couldn't be exactly direct to not impact my pituitary gland.
Also, another analogy he used, he said that the standard, like the traditional radiation is like a shotgun.
Yeah.
It says it just explodes everywhere. Also,
yeah.
Another thing too, like you were also having a really, really hard time remembering things, and that was also wrapped around the same nerve that also controlled memory too.
Yes.
So that so that was a major thing, and the crazy part was when he explained that how like people have this like. Meningioma is actually is not as uncommon as we think it is. Yeah. And a lot of people have it, and a lot of people end up going crazy over time because it goes undiagnosed.
Yeah, that's one of the side effects.
Yeah,
actually,
like you'll literally start losing your mind because your short-term memory. Your short-term memory goes, and people actually diagnose with like like mental illness, and they really just had a physical illness and brain tumor. So
I'm glad you brought that up.
So there was a lot of things, a lot of education that went on that we definitely got from Dr. Thornton that we wasn't getting anywhere else, and I'm very thankful for that.
Even say my seasonal affective disorder, meaning like this time of year, I started getting really depressed. He also explained to me this is your brain tumor because that part of your brain is not receiving sun because of the blockage. And it was like, oh my gosh, so I'm not like bugging. Like, this is really something. And then I'm like, well, how long did I have this? He was like, honestly, you probably had this minimum of 10 years.
Yeah.
So, minimum 10 years, why this happened now? Because I gave my third child the hormones for being pregnant, and the pushing caused the tumor to grow. So the hormones and the pushing caused it to when pushing out birthing the child caused the hormone to get bigger, which that's the reason it impacted my eyesight.
Yeah. Also because anytime and I realized this but I didn't realize this until you was going through your therapy. Like anytime you have any sort of hard impact emotion on your brain, it affects your brain. Like let's say you get like a concussion, or like if you strain too hard,
Yeah.
or you pick up something, like all that is stress and strain on your brain. So that was another aspect that I didn't really think about
Me either.
until then. I'm like, man, that does make sense.
I
So
didn't think about it.
after all that time of doing things, let's say like picking up something the wrong way, or like just like when you were actually giving birth, instead of actually breathing correctly, you just holding your breath and squeezing as hard as you can, is impacting your brain. So that also contributed to that.
Yeah.
But the silver lining, so to speak, was if that never happened, you never would have found out. Like it would have been just a natural progression of you just being like 55 years old, and you just out here like, yo, Kesha crazy now. I don't know what's wrong with her.
Right.
And you really have a legit issue.
And then even like my mother and Rashad named my youngest child, and her first name is Nia, and of course the definition of Nia is purpose, and just to think that her purpose was part of her purpose, not all, was to bring light of I had a brain tumor, because who know when it would go. It could have started. It could have eventually went that way when I got into maybe menopause, and it's like was too much.
Yeah, they would have attributed to that.
And me taking medicine and stuff, and we have gotten bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh my gosh, like you have so much purpose here, not just for this, but if it wasn't for her, I would not have known this. And the name Nia was just like, oh my gosh, like this is supposed to be your name. So started proton therapy August 20th. So when I'm supposed to have surgeries, I have markers in my head. Why they put markers in your head? Because when you have radiation, they mark exactly where the radiation beam should be at. So you have to get surgery to put markers in my head. August 20th, I'm sitting here in not in the emergency room, when they prepping me for surgery. I said, Rashad, my family's hiding something from me. Remember that? He was like, what? I said, my grandfather passed away. They're not telling me. And he looked at me kind of like, what? I was like, my grandfather passed away, and they're not telling me. So I gotta get focused. I'm about to have a surgery. I can't work, I can't go in the situation being stressed out. And by this time, I did tell my family, because I didn't believe in going through surgery and not telling my family. God forbid something happened to me. I didn't want them to be surprised. Like, oh my gosh, what happened? I didn't want to be surprised. And we were talking about when I told my family, like, they was just, but I felt in a better place when I told them. Like, it didn't bring me down no more. I was able to answer their questions.
Yeah.
So got it. By the way, did find out my grandfather did pass away. So as I was going in surgery, he passed away. I'm like, really? Can this get any worse? Have a baby, grab a brain tumor, go for surgery. My grandfather died. Like, I can't do this no more. Shortly after that, the baby, remember, had this bump on her arm. It's like, what is this bump? Take her to the hospital. We end up in surgery. Well, we going for a doctor's visit. We end up in surgery with her. We like, Lord, this kid, like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst. What we thought was the worst. Doctors finally came and got me and was like, Miss Jones, can you go in this room? I'm a social worker working out that hospital before. I know when they tell you come to this room, your child usually didn't make it. So you come to the room, I go off in the hallway. I'm going, oh, no, you ain't going to bring me out in the room. You going to tell me where it is right here. And Rashad's going to be like, yo, what's going on? But he doesn't know. I know my history is that when they bring you in the room, they about to tell you something they don't want everybody else to see.
Yeah.
So, and then next thing is like, do you want me to get a chaplain for you? So I made him like, no, you going to tell me where it is right now. The baby, they couldn't get her off the ventilator. So when we had her this surgery, they couldn't get her off, and they tried 3 or 4 times, but she wouldn't breathe. So we ended up for a doctor's appointment too. Now my baby's on the ventilator, and I'm like, for a bump on her arm. So we ended up at ICU. They wouldn't let us see her. So we did, when the morning time, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock. They wouldn't let me see my child. Finally let me see her. She got all these tubes and stuff on her. She's still not awake. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, Lord, you can't have me go all this and have my baby die at the same time. Like, this really. Rashad calm. He's always calm because I'm the overreactor. We always say we both not going to be in the same emotion at the same time. So he's calm. My mother's called me. I'm hitting go straight to voicemail. My parents called, both parents called. I'm hitting go straight to voicemail because I didn't want to talk. I couldn't talk. And I'm a therapist. I'm always talking. I think this is like the first time in my life I'm like, I don't want to talk to nobody. Finally, they finally let us go through, and I call her name, and I'm like, you gotta wake up. Mommy's here. Come on, you gotta wake up. You gotta wake up. And she opened her eyes. It was like, Lord, thank you. I'm like, we made it. Seriously, but I'm joking now, but it was like that. So I stepped out to let Rashad see it and let the kids see it because we only could do two at a one
at a time.
One at a time. So we rotate.
Yeah, they didn't let the kids see it.
They did, and we took pictures so the kids can see it. So we go rotate. I stayed the night with the child, with my baby. She was completely like wired up. Like you would never thought that just a few minutes ago she was like that. We stayed in ICU. All the monitors and stuff on her. She's jumping, she playing, she's screaming, she's shouting like a baby. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're the loudest people in the emergency room. So the next day, I'm supposed to start my first treatment of radiation. The doctor, nasty doctor, they asked her, well, the nurse asked her, can you start with them first? Because she has to go to treatment. She was like, when I get to it. So this other male doctor came, was like, he was a resident. He was like, don't worry, I got you. He signed me up, we left. Did my first treatment of radiation. And I'm crying. They let them actually, hit the proton, I love it, because they actually let them go into a room and watch me have the radiation. And they actually let you do the tour. My middle child is usually the one who's really reserved and nonchalant. When we went to the tour, she ran. Remember when she ran, and that kind of broke me down because she's usually the kind of like, we got it. I started my first session, and I wore this. I had to wear this when I had the radiation for all 33 sessions. Upside down, all 33 sessions. And God told me while I was there, I made a playlist of all inspiration songs. Nothing sad, like Ty Tripp, I Got the Victory. All inspirational songs. And I made just to help me. And I asked them, can you play this? And they play it loud. And that was just to help me get through. And of course, when you have radiation, I had to wear this and you lay on the bed and you can't move. And you know, that time, that's when you got to sneeze. That's when your back itch. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't move. First session was hard. I would like to say it gets easier, but it didn't. Then side effects of radiation kicks in. Every side effect they said I should have, I didn't have. Everyone I was having, I wasn't supposed to have. I started losing a lot of weight. Like so bad that like my jean pockets were touching. People started making comments about that. I lost my hair, which they said was going to happen. I started turning gray, and it started itching real bad. Like side of my face started turning gray, and I had no energy. Like, because they said you can get radiation, go back to work, which I did and worked that night. But I remember one time Rashad came home, was like, Kesha, why are you on the chair? I was like, I can't walk. He's like, what? And he lifted me up and had to take me to bed. Like, I literally could not walk. It was just draining me. I went to radiation Monday through Fridays, morning time. I try to get all morning appointments. And then my hair stopped falling. I remember talking to my best friend, and I looked back on the chair, and my hair was on the chair. And I stopped boiling. And then we one time was in the car, and I went like this to my hair, and my hair came out. And I'm in there bawling my eyes out like, oh my gosh. And I know people say, that's just hair. It doesn't matter. It's not about the hair. It's because even the part that I recognized myself was gone. I was starting not to recognize who I was now because my face was burnt. I lost a lot of weight, and now I have no hair. I hid it by wearing hats, or I just wore my hair. The hair that remained, like I try to wear it all the way down. But like I had here, all this was gone. Um, and that was it was like, that was, how would you say? I say that was one. I know we say 2020 is hard, but I think that was like the roughest year for me.
Yeah, definitely for you. It was a real low point, and I was just only thing I could really do. Oh yeah, so my part in this, which I really didn't understand, maybe till like years later, was me being a caretaker, and I didn't really. I just did it because like you were my wife, so I was supposed to take care of you. But I didn't understand just the amount of pressure and stress that actually was on me. Trying to take care
Yeah,
of you, take
yeah.
care of kids,
A
pay
newborn.
bills, newborn. I just started a new job. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot.
Had to quit your job because I couldn't be left
Yeah,
home
yeah, yeah,
alone.
yeah. Had to quit the old job and just really have a bunch of faith and say, yeah, once I finish my school, I'll get another job. You
And
know.
people was looking at this crazy, like, you not you. Why would he quit his job? And people don't know because
You couldn't like you
I
were
couldn't
you
be
couldn't you
alone.
couldn't nah, and because remember, like, up until then you didn't even start radiation nothing yet, and that was like over the summertime. So
I start August 20th. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So from
So
February to August 19th.
it was really really rough. So I had no choice but to be here just to actually be a legitimate help. Like, was it rough? Heck yeah, it was rough,
But
man.
Rashad, I thought you was awesome. Like, even though it was, and I used to try to get him to talk to me like, Rashad, you can talk. I know this is hard. Your wife, like, this is not the wife you planned. Like, when we say I do, you didn't count for this. This wasn't part of our vow. Even though sickness and health, but we didn't think this was going to happen. We didn't ever heard of a meningioma, a brain. Rashad never showed me that. He was always like, because I wanted to stay in bed all day. At this time, I was depressed. I started going back. I started going to counseling. I was depressed, and Rashad like, "Come on, let's get up and go." How am I getting up and go? I can't even see to go to the bathroom. He'd get me dressed, put on clothes. Come on, let's go. And people looking at me, and he got me by the arm, and he walked. Keisha step, Keisha 3 steps. Okay, Keisha turn. I mean, literally, I'm like, and mind you, he got the baby in one arm, me another one.
Yeah, it was it was my mindset when I had something to do. Like, I just do it. Like, I don't really be thinking about the whole totality of the situation. It's like I have a task. Let me complete said task.
Yeah, you did
Move on to
great.
the next task. And it wasn't until maybe last year that I actually started to kind of retrospectively look at how things were and how it impacted me, because I was so like, let me just make sure Keisha good, and then I was like, man, but like, what about you? And I'm like, what about me? And then I started recognizing how it started to affect me, because especially like when you started transitioning getting better, like I started to have this animosity. I was like, yo, like I shouldn't even like, oh, I should not feel this way. But like, yo, like I feel like I've been doing all this stuff. Like, I'm not being recognized on this stuff. Like, I'm tired. Don't nobody really see this. And I'm like, yo, like I need something to change for me to be better. You know? And I felt really guilty about feeling like that. Because a lot of times as caretakers do the work, don't get a whole lot of recognition for said work, and then they have to continue to do the work, mainly because of the situation that somebody else is in, and they love that person so much, or have an obligation to said person, that they don't want to disappoint them. And that's
And
where
keep it lighthearted for the kids.
yeah,
It
yeah,
seems
that's where
like,
I am. Like, yo, like
Mom is here.
I still gotta be out here. Hey, we want to do something. Like, we want to go somewhere. And in about like the mid to late 2018, 2019, I could feel myself just like slowing down.
But also, I'm gonna say part of the reason too, we didn't tell nobody too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wasn't telling nobody nothing. Like, I felt like nobody was really equipped to deal with my stuff, and where
And I didn't want to hurt people.
nah, I didn't care, because where I was at the time, I did not want me to tell you, and then you tell everybody, and then me be upset at you because you can't shut the hell up. Like that's really where I was, and I was like, my heart was very guarded, and for better or for
It
worse,
was.
my parents always told me to guard my heart, and this time it was for both because I needed to guard my heart, but somewhere in there, I needed to actually start to have a conversation about how I was feeling, even if it was with you. But I just wasn't ready to do that.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was trying to get him.
No, I just went off still talking.
I was trying to get him to open up because I'm like, it's no way that you can sit here and watch me go through this and you not have some kind of feeling. But I felt like in that time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you felt like I got this. I don't. You already fighting a battle.
Yeah, well,
I don't. You don't need me to put any extra stress, which I appreciate. Kind of appreciate that.
like I'm not about to sit here and like, oh, my feeling, I feel bad. Like yo, like you just have like you just really just legitimately had to do. And then I also felt guilty about how I couldn't really be there for you. Like you had to drive yourself.
Yeah, to
You
Hampton.
know, to Hampton. I was way out in an hour and a half the opposite direction working.
And then I worked that night.
Yeah, then you worked like I couldn't be there for you like I wanted to.
And then my job sucked. They made me come back to work, even though
Like
they made me come back to work and was gonna say I'll voluntarily resign. And I had to go back to work. Barely seeing that, I had to go back because now all these medical treatments ran through my insurance. I need the insurance to go ahead and go through. And which I was like, well, I just give insurance to my shot. I didn't want to because then we had to start all the credentialing process all over again. My insurance was already approved. So that job was being a jerk. It forced me to go back to work. And even that time frame, like Rashad, I feel like we learned so much. Also, like I have short-term memory loss. I do. So what I have to do is I have to play mind games for myself. Thank God I'm a therapist. No one ever told me. I just did it. So what I mean by mind games, read a lot of books, do things that keep you thinking. And I have to do word association. So like, okay, went to car, had on blue, went on red. Like I had to do a whole storyline where initially you'd be like, okay, you had an appointment tomorrow. I had to say, I wore blue, red. I had to do some kind of associations. And then when I did association, I had to make it to my long-term memory. Because my short-term memory, I don't have.
Yeah, you was basically out here doing mnemonics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if I had to sit here and say, February 9th, like I'm so serious. I had to do that in my head.
Repetition.
So I can remember it, and then I had to write it down. Even then, I gotten better because even if I write it down, sometimes didn't you write it down? I don't know. Did I? And sometimes Rashad still frustrated me because he'll go, didn't I tell you that? Didn't you say that? I don't know. Remember, I got short time. And sometimes I live we can have a whole full-fledged conversation. And he like, you said X, Y, Z, and I would not remember the conversation at all.
Yeah, and it'd be so hit or miss because sometimes you remember everything.
Yes.
And then the times you remember nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here and having to be sensitive to that in the moment is really hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, and you like, I'm like, hey, we're like, fine, but we just talked about a thing from 2 weeks ago that was so stupid to me that you remember the whole thing. But the actual important conversation we had about, this bill that need to be paid, you totally forgot.
I really don't remember.
So, like, I have to sit here and navigate my life within the lens of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not, it's hard. It's difficult.
Because I would straight forget, like, now we can have, like, remember this conversation? No, that wasn't me. It's like, now I'm be sitting, and it's not me being funny, and it bothers me too because I've gotten better, but it bothers me because certain things I just can't remember. So that's why when you like, don't you remember? That was a trigger for me because it's like you reminded me of what I had to go through all along. Like I want to remember, but I just can't. And so I do try to play games, but I'm still human. Even besides this, I'm still human. I'm still gonna forget. That's being human. But on top of this, I can't remember everything. I have to pick and choose because I can't sing the whole conversation. Yeah. So I have some information. I got to pick and choose what's important for me to retrieve and try to save to my long term so I can remember.
Yeah, it's definitely been it's been a
Okay.
road.
Some people we lost too, and some people we gained in there.
Like, yeah.
And that's what hurt me too.
I
God
can't,
had to
yo,
really tell me
like,
about that.
we don't even got time to talk about that. We already over. Like,
But even with that, just share this and we can wrap up and then we can toast. I was so focused on, because some people I felt like I was real writers for, and when I told them about my situation, I didn't hear from them again. And I was like, yo, when you was going X, Y, and Z, like I was there for you. And God told me, stop worrying about the people who wasn't there. Instead, focus on the people who showed up. Because there was people, once again, I never expected to be there, who came like literally knocking on the door, Roberta. It was like, hey, that's what you doing? I'm like, God, you told her something? Like, what was? And there was so much. I don't want to start saying name, but it was so many other people. Definitely my family, Lydia, Jackie, and G. Like, it was so many. I don't even want to start naming names.
But I'll name a name. I'm gonna be done. Like, I gotta definitely get lost with like your dad. Like, your dad.
Oh my gosh.
Your dad looked out for you so much.
Yeah.
And it really it amazed me. It humbled me as a father, and I definitely got like have my utmost respect for him.
I think that's when my father saw what you was going through.
Yeah.
And that changed for him too. Like, okay, I was telling you my youngest child had the surgery. They wanted us to come back. Was like, they didn't believe me. I was like, I used to pray up my baby every day. Like, no, because they was like, she gonna need a second surgery. I was like, not in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name, you would not. So the doctor kept pressuring me, come down here, come down. Rashad started a new job. They was pressuring me to come back to work, so I couldn't call off. My father came from New York to Virginia with my uncle and took my baby to the doctor. And I was like, oh my gosh, who does that? I was like, oh my gosh, he came down here just to take my child to the doctor. And then my other uncle came, and my mother, and we was laughing. We said, because you see 3 big grown men with this little baby. I say, really looking like 3 men and a baby. And they took, and then after that, the doctor still was like, come on, we got to be ready to schedule her for another surgery. And I was like, it's no need. The mass is gone. He did not believe me. We took her to the doctor, and he was like, which arm? And I'm like, I'm showing the arm. He was like, no, it wasn't that arm. Yes, it is. It's gone. He was like, no, it can't be, because it was still, he going all this time.
Yeah, he told your boy was about had to go by the Nova, right?
Yep. He read the paperwork. I'm praying. I'm like, in Yeshua's name, this gonna be good. I'm praying, and we holding it. Like,
yo, he was so dumbfounded. I said,
he didn't believe me. I was like, it's gone.
Like, fam, ain't nothing there. Yo, let me go home.
It was almost like they might call CPS on me if I didn't take this child, by trying to say medical neglect. That's how forceful they were. So they was like, look at the chart. Was like, let me see that again. It's gone. I said, yeah. I told you, it was gone. And he looked at me. He apologized. He said, I apologize to you. You said it was gone. And I was praying, because that was nothing but God's healing.
Yeah, man, ain't nobody trying to go back in the surgery.
Like, but it was a mass. It's still in there. We didn't take it out. It shouldn't be gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, good times, y'all. Toast to all that.
Happy anniversary to me.
Yes.
5 years.
Yeah, yo,
and counting.
5 years, man. It's been a journey. So like, yeah, if you say this long, you love us for real. Again, like even so on the video right now, I ain't had no space on the SD card. Anyway, I really love you because you're the best. And ups and downs, better or worse, we gonna grind this thing out, man. Okay. All right, that's it for today. We'll see you guys next week. I'm gonna have this as one whole episode. I ain't even gonna break this up. Don't care. One whole episode. And like I said before, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you when you see us on the social media, talk to us. We talk back. Talk to you later.
All right.